Hey, I'm Ron Drotos from keyboardimprov.com, and welcome to day 3 of the Art of Keith Jarrett, my 31-day tribute to this wonderful musician and inspiration for so many of us. And today I was thinking back to some of the early interviews Jarrett did from the 70s and perhaps the 80s, where interviewers would try to pin him down on his pianistic influences. And, who did you listen to growing up? And it's interesting because he seemed to be very contrarian in those interviews. And yeah, there was an aspect of that. He would say things like, well, I was influenced by the whole history of the piano. So you'd have to go back to the, Chopin and even how the piano is constructed. And I think that was true, though. I think he was trying to say something. And I also think he was trying not to be pigeonholed and trying to get people to think a little differently about music. It's not just about A to B. I was influenced by these people, and then I became like this. I think he was not trying to limit himself by thinking like that, too. And then gradually, later on in interviews, he would say things like, it was more of the saxophonists that influenced me, which may have been true in a lot of ways. Sonny Rollins and Ornette Coleman, and he would speak about how they wouldn't just play the same rhythms. He said pianists would play, quarter notes, eighth notes, 16th notes, 32nd notes, but saxophonists, because they're not part of the rhythm section, would float over that, and they'd get 6 notes and 5 notes and 7 notes. And yeah, you can hear that in his playing, definitely. So that was a clue into his musical influences. And also gradually over time, he'd start to speak about pianists. And that's where I want to focus on today. Because growing up in Pennsylvania, Jarrett has said that there was a book of Dave Brubeck transcriptions, which was really the only thing that he found in the music store that was about jazz. So he learned these Dave Brubeck transcriptions as a teenager. And then in some other interviews, like there's one with Ethan Iverson, where he talks about John Lewis, the pianist John Lewis, in a positive way. Thelonious Monk in a positive way. He's talked about Ahmad Jamal in a positive way. These are pianists that he enjoys listening to and grew up with listening to. And I was thinking, what's the common musical thread? Because he didn't say Bud Powell. He didn't say Bill Evans, although I think it had to be influenced by Bill Evans, even indirectly, just the way he plays with the trio. But what do John Lewis from the Modern Jazz Quartet, Thelonious Monk, and Dave Brubeck, for instance, have in common? I'll give you a second to think about that. Dave Brubeck, Thelonious Monk, John Lewis, and Keith Jarrett. What do they have in common in terms of their approach? You know what it is? They're not lick-oriented at all. They're totally willing, going back to Brubeck, to just throw out everything that they know and say, okay, I'm playing this. Where does it want to go? Where does it want to go? Hear it in Brubeck's playing, definitely, and he's spoken about that. People have said Brubeck, whether, with all the sometimes criticism, like maybe he doesn't swing like you want him to swing, or, rushing the tempo or whatever, he's willing to just totally, purely improvise. Thelonious Monk, same thing. Even if he's basing it on one of his melodies or something he's played before, the nuances in that moment are fresh every single time, more than most pianists. John Lewis from Modern Jazz Quartet, same thing. Total willingness to throw out all the licks, not knowing if it's even going to be, or where it's going to go. Say, okay, well, I don't know if this is going to be so fast at the end or something, but total pure improvisation. That's what Jarrett gets from the pianists he's spoken highly about that he grew up listening to. John Lewis, you hear it in his playing. Thelonious Monk, Dave Brubeck, and yes, Ahmad Jamal, same kind of thing. Also, none of them are pure bebop, even though Monk was one of the founders of the bebop era. He went into something else. So interesting, right? Not coming from a straight bebop or lick-oriented tradition like most people learn. So Jarrett developed a unique style, and we can learn from that too. So let's be fearless, improvise, and not know where it's going as we start a line. Thanks for being here with my exploration of this, our exploration. It's inspiring me, and good luck with your playing, and I'll see you in day 4.